Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Um, you're good for me to make you the host now?
Yes.
Cool. Let me do that, and then I'll jump ship to my next meeting.
Okay.
All right. You are now officially the host.
Sweet.
Excellent. All right. Well, I hope you have a good meeting and it's not too long.
Me too. I'm honestly more focused on trying not to sweat too much in my apartment. It's very hot out.
Oh, that's true. It must be steaming down there, like 90 degrees, huh?
Yeah, very hot. As you can hear my AC and my fan going at the same time.
Yeah, it's beautiful outside, but it's comfortable in here in town hall right now.
That's good.
Yeah. All righty. Well, I'll see you later. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Bye.
Bye.
Meow. Meow.
Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Can you make me a co-host?
Mhm.
Hi, Mary. Hi, Neil, and hi, Heather. Nice to meet you. Can't hear you. Yeah, you're muted. Carrie, do you have, were you CC'd on the email from Matt Stickwitz with the construction schedule for the Locks Pond culvert?
Yes, I was.
Could you make sure it gets forwarded to everyone? I don't know if it did forward it to everyone,
Yeah, I can.
all the
double check that.
commissioners.
Me now? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yay!
Hi, nice to meet you.
Oh my goodness. I had that problem at a meeting, and so I bought a new camera for my computer. And I was like, oh my God, I'm having the same problem. Phew.
Okay, we're gonna wait one more minute. We're expecting one more commissioner for tonight.
Okay. Oh, I'm so glad that's working.
Could I have the other commissioners just rename yourselves, identify yourselves as being commissioners? I think that would be a good thing. Hi, Robin. You want me to do it for you? I can do it for you. Here, I'll do it for you. You want me to do it for you, Mary?
Sure, if you got it up, I'd have to go play with it again for a minute or two.
I want you to do that. Yeah. We should rename, I can't rename Carrie, sorry. Carrie, I can't rename you. All right. So I don't know when Scott will be signing on, but we do have a quorum, so I think we can call the meeting of the Shutesbury Conservation Commission tonight, April 13th, and tonight, Miriam DeFont Chair is present, as well as Robin Harrington and Mary David. And I'm just seeing that Scott Kahn is signing in right now, who is the other commissioner who's going to be present tonight. Hi, Scott. Scott, do you want to rename yourself just for the? I was asking everybody to label themselves as commissioner if they can. If not, I can do it.
Trying to figure that out. I had to rejoin on a new device.
All right, well, we're going to call the meeting to order. And first on our agenda is a continued public meeting for a request for determination of applicability for 70 Cooleyville Road for a septic system repair. And the representative for the applicant is here, Neil Jackson. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Mary. How are you?
And you brought your wetland consultant, Heather Comey. Welcome,
Yes.
Heather.
Hi.
Okay, so this is really our first hearing. This application was submitted in January, but we were delayed in our ability to do a site visit because of winter conditions for a couple of months. And we did a site visit on Monday with Robin Harrington and Beth Wilson and myself. Beth will not be here tonight. She had a conflict with the schedule. And we did have some questions that we wanted to talk with you, Heather, about in terms of your delineation and some of our observations. But perhaps we can jump into that first, or we can talk, maybe have Neil just present the project first for a few minutes and describe to us what you're doing, and then let's talk with Heather.
Okay. I am Neil Jackson, JMP Engineering Services. I represent Ross Keeley. He's doing a total renovation of the existing house. And the reason we're here is because he's putting in a new septic system. Currently, they have a pipe that kind of runs out towards the stream in daylight. So it's really why I wouldn't consider a septic system at all, but it hasn't been in use for a while, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So really, there isn't a septic system. They just had a pipe run out to the woods, upgrading of the stream. So
Wow.
yeah, not good. I've seen worse, but I've seen it go right into, piped right into the stream. So this is better, I guess.
Okay. So needless to say, you're not like removing or building on top of anything.
Oh, no. No.
Do you want to say some more about what the project layout is? Do we have, Carrie, do you want to bring up a site plan and screen share
Yeah,
it?
so I sent, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I sent a little cropped version of it. If I want to make sure that's the correct like overall site plan.
Yeah, I think there was only one site plan. If you want to pull that up, I
Okay.
think. It was it's a big design sheet, so it,
Okay, there's just multiple designs on it, so it seems a little confusing, but I was using the one in the top corner just because it seemed a little bit easier.
yeah,
to
that's
follow.
the layout. That shows the
Yeah.
layout.
Just one moment while I pull it up.
Want me to look for it?
No, I have it up. It's just I'm trying to make it not two screens. What?
No, I don't think that's what we want.
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll the next. There it goes.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, if you can rotate it, that'd be great. Okay, that helps. It's a little hard. It was a little hard to see this. So do you want to explain, Neil, what we're looking at?
Yep, so we're seeing the existing house, and there's also a barn that's falling down, which is shown on the plan. The proposed septic system is basically northeast of the existing house. about 55 feet from the bordering vegetated wetlands. Using an Elgin geotextile sand filter system, which gives you a smaller footprint, basically as good, if not better, filtration. And it's a lower grade, so there's not, we don't have a real big difference in proposed from existing grade. So with this type of system, you actually, the smaller footprint enabled us to keep it further from the wetlands and also maintain a gravity system.
Okay. And it's hard to see, but is this right here, somebody want to show where the septic tank is going to be located? I can't see it on the design.
Oh, the tank will be right near the house.
Okay, entrenched. All
Yeah,
right,
that's the the actual septic field,
okay,
the leach field.
okay. So when we looked at this back in December, and first of all, I have a couple questions. Who owns the property? Is it still owned by the Rehorkas?
Ross owns it now.
Oh, he does. Okay.
He is the owner right now. Yeah.
Right, because it didn't show up, and I know that in the original application, the Rehorkas signed the application as landowners.
Yeah, he's definitely the owner now.
When did he get title of it?
I'm not sure. It's been at least a month, maybe more.
So when I look, I haven't gone to the Franklin Registry of Deeds. I went to our assessors database, and the Rehorkas still show up as of today as landowners. Sometimes I think it takes a while for the assessor's office to catch up with these changes. So could we get some proof sent to us? I'll have to rewrite the permit because I put it as the Rehorkas being the landowner.
Oh, I'll go on Mass Land Records and get you the book and page if you'd
Yeah,
like.
just get us a copy of the title or whatever, the deed. That would-
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just email it. That would be fine. Others to save the time. So when we went out, and unfortunately you can't see my cursor, I wish we could. We went out.
I might be able to give you controls. There is a button for it. Never used
Oh.
it before, but if you would like to try.
Yeah, let's try. Tell me when. Okay,
It's saying wait to control, so you can try now. I don't know what
you
that
see
means.
my cursor? Can you guys see my cursor?
Yes.
Yes, that's
That's
crazy.
cool.
Very cool. All right. So when we went out in December, Robin Harrington and I did a site visit, and we saw this. Now I see two cursors. Maybe that is my cursor. We saw the BVW and this finger of BVW that sticks out. And then up in this area right here, very close to the array, we saw hydrophytic plants. We saw clusters, little pockets of sensitive fern and other hydrophytic plants. And we took a couple of soil cores and saw some hydric soils. We saw some, redoxamorphic iron staining. So we questioned whether there was an isolated wetland closer to the septic system, or whether what we were seeing was a finger extending and connecting to the BVW. When we went out on Monday with Beth, we did not find the soils, but we saw kind of an abundance of sensitive fern and bristly dewberry, which are both fac wet plants. And so we just really wanted to hear from you, Heather, about your thoughts about it, how you're conceptualizing that.
Yeah, I noticed that for that area right away too, because of the sensitive ferns. I did a lot of soil borings out there, and there is some redoxamorphic features, some high chroma models or masses. But to qualify as a hydric soil, it has to have a 2 chroma B horizon. So a lot of the soils in this entire area had 4 chroma, really bright 4 chroma model B horizons as their matrix. And 4 chroma, 10YR44 horizon is a typical upland soil. It would have to be, that B horizon would have to have a base matrix of like 10YR42 or 10YR 5352, or any of the other, typically you might see a 2.5Y 42, but it has to have that 2 chroma for the matrix, in addition to having 2% or more redoxymorphic features. And I just wasn't seeing that in that area because I did a lot of borings there. And then I did a couple more borings further up, and it was the same for 10YR44 B horizon. And not until I got way down below, plus that that pocket, that finger that sticks up, that also had a 10YR or the B horizon started out actually as a 10YR43 for about 2 inches, and then the rest of it was 2.5Y52. So it met that criteria of having a 2 chroma.
Okay.
And
So these are just small, isolated wetland features that aren't really showing characteristics of long-term hydric conditions.
right, yeah, so there is some water to support the growth of some hydrophytes, but not long-term in order to develop hydric soils. And so without meeting both those criteria, the 50% or more of wetland vegetation, hydrophytes, and an indicator of hydrology such as soils, hydric soils, it has to have either both of those or some other indicator of hydrology in order to qualify it as a wetland. But I know exactly what area you're talking about because I spent a lot of time looking at that area just to make sure.
Yeah, it was hard to explore it much because a lot of it has been disturbed by the, this is the location where they did the
Test
perk
pits.
testing, so there's a lot of soil disturbance. But that makes a lot of sense what you're saying. Appreciate your articulating that for us. The other question I had is the BVW appears to be associated with a stream. And did you determine or have an opinion about whether it was intermittent or perennial?
Yeah, I did, it shows up on the USGS map as an intermittent stream, but to further determine that it's an intermittent stream, I ran stream stats on it. And it must have had, I don't have that in front of me, but it must have had less than a contributing watershed of less than half a square mile.
Mhm.
So if it has a contributing watershed area of a half a square mile, then it does not qualify as a perennial stream. Where did I thought I saw that in his application.
Because I know when you get farther downstream on the other side of the road, it definitely looks like a perennial stream. It has all characteristics of a perennial stream. So this is just up gradient of it. Just want
Oh.
to make, sure it's not, we just want to make sure it's not riverfront area.
Yep. Yeah, so the drainage area, I actually, can you see this stream stats report?
Is it on the sheet?
It was included in your packet. I printed up the packet that Neil submitted.
Sure.
And
Why don't you stop sharing right now? Yeah, I mean, I can pull, we can pull it up from the file. Go ahead, keep talking. I'll see if I can pull it up.
okay. On there is a map on there and it shows like a cursor or a blob showing where the stream stats calculated the watershed from. And I placed that more than 200 feet down gradient of the road just to make sure that it didn't have stream stats that extend that 200-foot extending onto the property.
Yeah.
And stream stats, it calculated the area that drains to the point on the stream as 0.086 square miles. So that is well below that 50%. I'm
Here's
sorry,
the,
half a square
I think
mile.
So here's,
criteria.
can
yeah.
people see the stream stat report here? Is this what we're talking about? Let me scroll down, next page, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah, so can you see that oval shape blob on there with a white circle in the middle of it?
Yep,
So that's the point that I had stream stats calculate the watershed area.
Yeah.
And I also have them run the 99% flow duration. And
right
I
here.
don't
Yep.
know if I see that.
Is it here?
So see at the bottom, it says flow duration.
Yep.
We would have to go down furthermore. So it only goes to 60%, but at one of the other criteria is it has to meet both
There we go.
the 50, oh, there we go. The 99% flow duration is 0.00 and cubic feet. And so it didn't meet that criteria either. It would have to meet both of them in order to be considered perennial.
Okay, great. All right, I may have some other questions. Does anyone else from the commission want to ask any questions while I'm checking my notes?
I'm fine.
Okay. And Robin, Scott, do you have any questions?
Don't.
Okay, and the erosion controls will be a trenched silt fence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well, in that case, is there any comments from the public? Okay, barring that, commissioners, do you feel you have enough information to close the public meeting?
Yes,
Okay, do I have a motion to close?
a motion to close the public meeting for 70 Cooleyville Road.
And is there a second? Robin, do you want to say something? Were you seconding, Robin? You're muted.
Sorry, I second.
All right, David,
Aye.
Font, I, Harrington,
I,
Khan.
Hi,
Okay, so I have drafted a permit for us to review. Commissioners, so I think the expectation would be that we reach a negative determination number 3 with conditions. And As we've been advised to do so, I've split this up into two different permits, one under the Wetlands Protection Act and a separate permit under the bylaw. So why don't we go through the WPA permit first, and then we can go over the bylaw one. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
And are you all in agreement with a negative determination number 3?
Yes, Heather has her hand up.
I'm sorry. Yes, Heather.
What is a -3? I don't have the form in front of
That
me. If you
would,
remember.
it would mean there'd be some conditions,
Oh,
but otherwise, no NOI required.
Didn't understand that.
My phone didn't understand that, excuse me. We're being listened in on. Jeez, put them on the, in the minutes. The AI on my phone is attending at this meeting. All right, so let me pull it up. DP just issued this week new forms. And I guess now you can actually submit your determinations online through the portal, which is a new thing. So I'm going to try and do that for this. And if that doesn't work, we'll mail it to them. So let me see if I can get this to screen share the draft. Okay, people, can you see it?
Yes.
Actually, this is a PDF, so if I have to change anything, I have to open up a different document because I opened up. So I have to change the owner because right now I had the Rehorkas as the owner, so I will change that and just put Russ. Actually, I'll just delete it because we can just say he's the landowner. So here's the parcel number. The application was on January 27th. Repair of on-site septic system, 50 feet from a boarding vegetated wetland. Proposed limit of work is 50 feet. So in some ways, this is very similar to the permitting for the septic system that we did at my house, where my septic field was 50 feet from the wetland. Trench silt fence for erosion controls, innovative alternative Title V system, included 1,500 gallon tank. And there's the site plan. And let me scroll to the next page. Okay, the determinations. So under positive determinations, we always check off number 5 because this is also being permitted under the jurisdiction of the bylaw. So it's 2 permits. And then under negative determination, under the Wetlands Protection Act, we're saying the work described is in the buffer zone and does not require notice of intent, and then see attached findings and special conditions. And then the rest is just the signatures. And I'll take Beth's name off of it since I thought she was going to be here tonight. Okay. So
Yep.
Let me then pull up the bylaw form. So this is a bylaw. I sent everybody the template of this form,
Yep.
which I was able to acquire through MACC. This was adopted by some other towns that are using separate forms to issue their permits. And so I just edited the format to include our town's name. And it's thinking about whether it wants to open up. Screen share it. So the wording is going to be a little different on this permit because it's referencing the bylaw, not the Wetlands Protection Act. Do you guys see it?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What are you looking at?
There we
there
go.
it is.
There it is.
Okay. All right. So again, I'll fix the applicants' names before we submit it. And here, I'll just go through the language. pursuant to the authority under the bylaw, the commission has considered your RDA. Again, the same language here for project description as was in the other one. And same project area. But the language is a little different here under determination. So for positive determination, instead of saying it's under the jurisdiction of the WPA, we're saying, I'm sorry, on the other form, we said it was under the jurisdiction of the bylaw. Here, we're saying it's also under the jurisdiction of the act. So they're just mirror images of each other in terms of their language. I also just want to point out that I'm suggesting some language here for referring to the buffer zone on the bylaw form. This is something that I've been talking with Janice about and some other consultants. A number of communities now for their bylaw are now choosing to not refer to the 100-foot buffer zone as a buffer zone because it creates confusion. Because under the state regs, the buffer zone is regulated in a different way than it is under the bylaw. And so they're adopting a different term to make it clear to people. And the term that a number of communities are using is the 100-foot adjacent upland resource area, or ORA for short. So by referring to it as something different, it's just calling out that it is a resource area as opposed to buffer zone, which is not a resource area per se under the act. Although the act does regulate some activities within the buffer zone. It's not considered a resource area. So anyway, I put in here as a definition saying also known as, but then I'm referring to it thereafter as the ORA. Does that seem okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So under 6, because there are some resource areas that are protected under the bylaw, but not the act, I also have a 6 here under determination saying the following areas, if any, is subject to the bylaw, but not subject to the act. And I'm saying here that the ORA is a protected resource. And the proposed work is in the ORA to a bordering vegetated wetland, just clarifying that. Under determinations, I've got 2 checked off. One is that the work described is within an area subject to the protection under the bylaw because it's in the buffer zone and that's a resource area. But no NOI will be required because we're not, we're determining that it's not going to alter the area. And then 3 is the same language saying that they can proceed with conditions and do not require an NOI. And then there'll be attached findings, which we'll take a look at. And then down here, again, just the same layout for signatures, which I will fix because I put Beth's signature on. Any discussion about that?
Nope. Looks good.
No,
All right, let me pull up the special conditions and we'll do the same thing for the other permit tonight that we're going to be reviewing. And I know that the applicants for that other RDA are here and we'll move to your public hearing very shortly. We're almost done here, I think. Hang on a sec. All right. I'm going to screen share it. All right. And most of this is pretty much boilerplate, but again, I'll change the landowner information on this. So the applicants propose to repair the on-site septic system. Work permitted under this shall conform to the following site plan. The commission, hereafter the commission finds the proposed project falls within the following jurisdictional areas. And here we have to outline all of the jurisdictional areas. We approved the boundaries of the BVW flagged in the field and mapped on the site plan. We find that the protected 100-foot buffer zone associated with this BVW is present on the site, but it's not flagged or mapped. And I think that I believe it is not mapped on the site plan. Is that correct? Anybody tell me? It is not. The bordering vegetative wetland is a protected resource under the Act and the bylaw. The aura is a protected resource area under the bylaw. The project falls within the aura, but outside of the 50-foot boundary line. And then this is language that we've been including in our permits about basically the fact that auras are critical to the interests of the Act and the bylaw because of the ways that they contribute toward the interests of the Act and the bylaw. This determination is hereby issued under both the Act and the bylaw. We find there's no practicable or substantially equivalent economic alternative, and that they rebutted the presumption of an adverse impact with the contingent upon the special conditions below. So before any work may commence, the applicant shall submit to the commission a letter with an original signature attesting to having read and understood all these conditions. Applicant shall notify the commission by email 48 hours before the work is to commence. Commissioners, the rest of it is all boilerplate that we use on all of our permits, that commissioners have the right to, with notice, inspect the property. The applicant is responsible for giving a copy of this permit to anybody responsible for the work. And anybody performing the work is individually responsible for complying with these conditions. Pre-existing vegetation shall be preserved to the maximum amount possible and no tree removals are authorized. Erosion controls shall be installed before any other work. Once the erosion controls are in place, the applicant shall submit photographs to the commission via email in lieu of a pre-construction site visit, and we'll confirm that we received them. And if we have any questions, we'll ask to arrange a construction site visit. Erosion control shall define the limit of work, and the landowner shall maintain and repair those erosion controls as needed. They shall remain in place until the site is fully stabilized and vegetated. If there's any changes to the plan, the applicant will need to come back to the commission with a new request. Any stockpiling of materials must be as far away from the BVW as is practicable. Unconsolidated materials, if there's any soil piles, for example, need to remain under double tarps and have an erosion control, be within the erosion control area. So I would say does not have to be surrounded by straw bales, but it has to be surrounded by erosion control. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yep.
So, it could be straw wattles, or it could just be within the limit of the existing silt fence. No dumping of any materials within any areas under our jurisdiction. And then the reseeding will be required to use a conservation mixed grass seed in order to enhance the wetland values of this resource area of the aura. And then within 30 days of completion of the project, the applicant will give us photographic documentation showing its completion. Any questions or suggestions from the commission?
Looks good.
Looks good.
Okay. All right. Somebody want to make a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, David,
Aye.
DeFont, aye, Harrington.
Aye.
Tom. Tom?
Hi.
Aye. All right. So thank you, Heather and Neil, for your patience with this.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I will clean up these permits and I'll send you a digital copy tomorrow, and then we'll be sending one via certified mail. A question I have for you is, should it be sent to you and to Ross Keeley?
No, just send it to me.
Okay, to your Belchertown address that we have?
Yeah.
Okay,
That
All
way
right.
I make sure it's filed. My attorney will file it electronically and it's done and I just bill the customer. So,
okay, very good. All right, well, thank you very
okay.
much.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Okay, we have another RDA on our schedule. This is 56 North Laurel Drive, and who do we have to represent the applicants?
Hello, everyone. This is Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates.
Hi, welcome,
And George Abdo.
welcome.
Hello. Should I share my screen? I think I have to be enabled to in order to do so, unless there's some
Yeah.
other arrangements.
Carrie, do you want to enable that for him?
Yeah, he's all set. I just did it.
Okay, thank you. So many of you are familiar with this property. We filed a notice of intent not too long ago for a new house on the property. However, this RDA, the subject is just for a proposed dock. There is a, there has been an existing seasonal dock unpermitted. We are trying to establish and get permission to maintain. It's a 282 square foot dock located right here. Here's a mean annual high water line to the lake. This is the existing house. It is a PVC decking, PVC composite decking dock. It has an aluminum frame with shoes that sit on grade. The entirety of the dock sits on grade, so there's no disturbance to the soil or any of the plant life or any other modifications necessary for the lawn area. We have obviously submitted a Chapter 91 application, but this RDA is a prerequisite for WPA authorization before DEP can proceed with the Chapter 91 review. And we have also concurrently submitted a NHESP project review request to the NHESP program. We have not got a determination back yet from them. Aside from that, happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. We did get a letter. I reached out to Natural Heritage and the Endangered Species Program yesterday, and I got an email back either yesterday or today saying that their deadline, because of when you submitted, is they would not have a comments until, I think, May 3rd. But because this is an RDA, we're not in a position where we would hold up this decision. We were advised by DEP not to hold up this decision based on Natural Heritage's feedback. If this was a notice of intent, then we would need to do that. But it's a simplified review process because it's under an RDA.
That was my understanding as well. Yep.
I do have a couple questions. I noticed I had emailed you that when I was looking at the elevations, there were a couple of numbers that looked confusing, and I wondered if there might have been a typo or not in the elevations. And I don't have the site plan.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Unfortunately,
Right there, 435, and I think it says 835 somewhere else.
right, it should be 835. There's a typo. It says 435, but the side profile elevations are, in the 800 range. And then on our overall site plan, the topography is in 800 range. So that mean in a high water should be 835 and a half.
Okay. And what is the clearance above the surface water from the decking?
The property owner claims historically it's been about 8 inches.
My understanding is that the recommendation from DEP's small dock guide is to have 12 inches in order to have sufficient light penetration.
Okay.
Aquatic organisms, and I wondered if that's possible with this dock to achieve 12 inches.
George, do you know, are the poles on the dock adjustable? Can we raise it a few more inches up to 12 inches?
Yeah, they do adjust. I mean, a lot of it depends on the water level. Last year, it was probably 18 inches because the water was so low. The water fluctuates, but yeah, we could raise it up to start at 12.
Okay.
And then the other question I had was about the storage. So when we went out on the site visit, what we noticed is that it looked like some portions of it were being stored on the side of the property, very close to a bordering vegetated wetland. And wondering if that's necessary or if there's a way to store it farther away from that resource area.
Never thought of it. Just took it out of the water and moved it away so that it wasn't visible from the sight of view of the house.
George, do you have a preferred area on the property you would like to store it? And then maybe we can see if that's a problem or not.
I don't have a preferred area, as I said, just so that it wasn't in the main field of vision. I mean, obviously, there's no field of vision now because the house is under construction, but I know that the panels and everything are going to be stored in the storage area in the house when the house is done. So they won't be on the lawn either.
Okay,
But right now, what we saw was that a lot of the dock is right at the water's edge in front of the house. So are you gonna store those parts where they are now?
I can store them wherever suggested. As I said, my problem is we have a silt fence. We have everything set up, so there's really no way to get it in the construction area. So this year it was a little regulated as to where we could put it.
Right.
But I mean, if you have a suggestion, I'd be happy to listen to it.
My preference would be, I think it's a little less than ideal. I don't know what other people along the lake do, but I would think that during the winter months, having it away from the bank is a good idea so that if there's any ice being pushed up, it isn't damaged the bank, if it's hitting the dock structure. And I would think that as far away from the BVW as possible would be ideal. So that's why I'm wondering if we could come up with a solution that would accomplish those things. Do you usually leave it right down by the bank or do you usually bring it all the way up onto the lawn? Right now it's down by the bank. Part of it's down by the bank.
I think everything's on lawn, isn't it?
It's on the
And
edge.
the lake has historically been lowered like enough feet so that when any of the ice or anything else happens, there's a section of shore between the ice and where the dock is. It's never really been an issue before. But as I said, I've never thought of it this way, but I'm happy to listen.
Well, I'd have to check my pictures to see where it is. Hang on one sec. I can pull them up if you give me a second. You remember, Mary or Robin, you were there.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was back a little bit, but
Little bit.
where to place it is probably a little hard till all this work gets done
Yeah.
to identify
Well,
a
Yeah.
better place.
So the photos that I have show it down below the bank, sort of in the flood zone. Or within the, close to the water level edge.
We
right?
can definitely pull it up further. That's not a problem.
I mean, I understand that right now you're in a situation with construction that's limiting things. But in the future, just wondering, I can throw a picture. I don't know how to do this easily. Carrie, I emailed the pictures. Can you pull any of them up? You have them?
Yeah, I can go grab.
It's easier, I think, to look at a picture. I think, Ryan, you'll have to release the screen. There were a few pictures. Yeah, so this is looking down below from up above. Once you scroll, this is probably not the best picture. Keep going. So this is where I was talking about, you've got it way over on the edge, going.
Okay. I mean, that can be moved up a couple feet.
Carrie,
I
Carrie,
mean,
do you have any more? Do you have the other pictures? Yeah. And then there should be one more picture. Is that it? I guess that's it.
everything's on the lawn.
Yeah, there's a picture I have that, well,
Our intention was to put everything on the lawn.
yeah. Okay, so, would it be acceptable to say in the permit that it'll be stored on the lawn, away from the bank and the BVW.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, is there a distance? I mean, away like 10 feet or, I mean,
Yeah, I think we should give you something concrete. What would you, commissioners, what do you think? 10 feet? I would say 10 feet is okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean, I'm fine with 10 feet, but
Okay.
it looks like he's got room to do that there
yeah.
without a problem.
And then the other question I had is about the timing, because what I wanted to write into the permit is the time when you could put the dock in and take it out. And I had thought about putting in April 15th and October 15th. I wanted to know if that would be an issue for you. That it would be no sooner, no earlier than April 15th and no later than October 15th.
I think October 15th is a little early.
Okay,
I mean, it's April 15th right now, and I mean, depending on the year, recent year, the ice has been on the lake up until April 15th, a couple years ago. So, I mean, but I mean, the thing I'm not really understanding here is it's an existing dock. It's been going in and out since the 50s. Everybody else on the lake has docks that are, I mean, in any of the permits that have been given in recent time, have schedules been put on and restrictions been put on anybody like this?
well, I haven't, this is the first permit that has come before us since I've been on the commission in 2.5 years. So I can't speak for what happened before I was on the commission. But I think going forward, we want to be consistent and we want to be clear with people. And my thought about it is to align it as much as possible with when the drawdown period is and the growing season, so that you know, the dock gets put in place early and sort of stays in place. And I that was my thought.
Is your
The
restriction
drawdown-
to
the
get it out of the
drawdown-
water or off the land?
I'm sorry, what?
Is your restriction to get it into the water or out of the water? I mean, on which side, what's your concern on it? I mean, that's the part I just missed, because I mean, are you worried to get it off the lawn so that the lawn can grow, or are you worried to get it out of the water?
I think I was thinking more about getting it out of the water. I think we do need to be clear about this. So the drawdown is supposed to be completed by April 1st, and I don't have a problem if that feels better. And if you're saying that October 15th is a problem, we could do November 1st, which is when the drawdown is supposed to begin.
I'm fine with November 1st. As I said, right now, I mean, today is what, April 15th, April 14th,
Yeah.
13th.
13.
But I mean, I have no intention of putting the dock in today. So,
So would April 1st be okay?
well, I
Yeah.
mean,
Because before that,
There's no docks that have been put in yet.
the drawdown begins on, I believe, March 1st typically, and is completed by April 1st. So, or it has to be
you
completed by.
mean
April
the
1st.
build up, is that?
Build up, I'm sorry. Yeah, I always say
You're
drawdown. Build up.
confusing me with drawdown, because, okay. So depending on what happens with the weather, I mean, if there's flooding or high water or a lot of rain, then the lake's gonna come up on its own. But
That's correct.
are you saying that the dam keeper is trying to start the rising of the water on March 1st and have it done by
That's
April 1st?
That is about, it's about that time period. I believe that the way the permit was written is that it'd be achieved by April 1st.
As I said, I don't think April 15th is ever gonna be a problem. But on the backside, October 15th is a little bit early. So whether we go November 1st or, so sometimes it's easier and better when the water is down to go in and do it, because the water is 2 feet lower.
Yes.
So maybe November 15th.
I see a couple of hands raised, and I'm wondering if somebody wanted to comment on this. Who had their hands raised? Can't see.
Mark
Carrie,
has his hand up.
Mark, did you make a comment about this?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, currently there's probably half a dozen docks on the water already. So April 15th is a little early, is a little late. And the reason why people put their docks out earlier is they try to get them in just one before the water starts rising, so that they can put them in and not disturb the bottom after the water's already come up.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and so you're really essentially walking on dry land and putting your dock in. So the April 1st is, or associated with the ice leaving the lake, is probably a more appropriate approach or more realistic approach.
Well, how would we tie this? I mean, because, that's a subjective question of when the ice is finished, left the lake, and the drawdown and raising up may change from year to year, might be a slightly different time. So I was trying to find something that would be kind of splitting the difference and coming up with something we could use in a standard kind of way.
How
So-
about,
I think April 1st to November 15th sounds,
November 15th.
yeah, April 1st to November 15th sounds like it gives people enough time to do what they need to do.
I can live with that.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, but there is one alternative to consider, and that is when the dam keeper decides to start raising the level of the lake. That gives people, a week to, to get out there before the water really comes up.
Mhm.
And
Right. So this year, I think because there was a lot of rain at the beginning of March, he was a little later in getting started with raising it. And but it came up very quickly because we had some rain. It was a kind of a wet period. I'm seeing a couple hands raised. Carrie, did you still have a question?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but if it provided any clarity, but I believe Howard Kinder came to the office on either April 1st or 2nd. I can't remember exactly when, to let me know that the lake was at like summertime levels, that it was that raised to when it was supposed to be, or what
Yeah.
level it was. I think I sent you an email, but I'm not entirely sure. I can look.
Thank you. Yeah, I think
You're
I remember that. Well, November, so we'll do April 1st to November 15th. I think in terms of the impact on the breeding season in the spring, I don't know, Scott, do you have an opinion about whether April 1st makes sense?
Yeah.
Because obviously moving the dam in and out could disrupt fish eggs and amphibian eggs.
I think that seems like a reasonable date.
Okay. All right, well, we will go with that, November 15th for taking it out, and April 1st would be no earlier than April 1st. And then obviously, if for some reason somebody doesn't get it in on April 1st and they want to put it in the middle of summer, they can do that, obviously, during the summer season, that would be acceptable. And you're agreeing that you'll keep it raised to a 12-inch height. Is that right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. And just so you would understand, we would be permitting this as designed, but if for any reason you're changing or enlarging or amending this dock, you'd need to come back and discuss it with us. And we would decide whether we felt like we could approve it under the existing determination or whether you'd need a new application of some sort. Not necessarily a new RDA, but we're discussing possibly developing a kind of a streamlined quickie permit program that would allow for easier, faster, cheaper permits applications. So that would be our.
I'm sure that would go over a lot better with other people, because between both of these two applications, this has been pretty costly.
Yes. Okay. So I'm trying to think if there's any other questions from the public or from other commissioners.
No, that covered my questions.
I know, one of the questions that we're talking about is how other communities, we're looking at how other communities permit docks. We've been reaching out to another number of other communities that have great ponds and also have, recreational lakes to learn how their conservation commissions are approaching these kind of seasonal docks. And so, we're looking for best practices that are consistent with kind of how other communities are addressing some of these things. Some communities, I just want to say, I found a couple communities for seasonal docks require under their bylaw that only seasonal docks can be permitted through an NOI, and they attach perpetual conditions for mitigation as a result of allowing the docks. And we don't have those kind of tools available through an RDA for any kind of perpetual conditions or for mitigation. But that is something that, we might want to be studying in the future if we feel that there's some sort of cumulative impact to the resource area because of all of the docks that are available. Our goal has been to try to make it possible for as many people to bring their docks into compliance and get them licensed and permitted. So that is what we want. And so that's why we're doing this through an RDA rather than requiring an NOI, because we wanted to make it easier on the applicant. Just wanted to point out that some communities do require notices of intent for it. Okay. Shall we then close the public hearing? If you've had enough information, somebody want to make a motion?
Motion to close the public hearing on 56 North Laurel Drive.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, David,
Aye.
DeFont, aye, Harrington,
Aye.
Khan.
Hi,
And before we move on, I realized that I forgot to ask the commission for permission to sign for them digitally for the other permit that we just issued. Do I have everyone's permission for both of these permits to sign digitally?
Yes.
David, aye.
God says yes. Thumbs don't
Yeah.
work. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let me pull up the special conditions that I drafted, and we will make some of the revisions based on the discussion we've had. And let me. All right. This is the wrong permit. Hang on, guys. I'll be there in a sec. All right, here it is. And let me screen share. These are the special conditions. All right. You see it?
Yes.
Okay. Applicant proposes to build a 282 square foot seasonal dock. Work permitted is to be in compliance with both their proposed dock plan and also the land site plan that was submitted under the NOI. Do we want to make a note here about the elevation? Is that not necessary? It's not significant.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right, then here are the jurisdictional areas, and this is really taken from the delineation from the NOI that there is the on the site plan has the bank, the mean annual high water line of the lake, the bank, and then there's a buffer zone as well to BVW. I think I may have left the BVW out. Oh, we find that there's a bordering vegetated wetland containing intermittent stream close to a culvert, blah, blah, blah. And there's this associated bank and buffer zone. And then the project area falls within the 100-foot buffer zones of the bank of the Lake Wyola and the bordering vegetated wetland. And then I have this language about the buffer zone as being an aura, being protected by the bylaw, and the rationale for protection of auras. And then I have Lake Whale as a great pond is listed as priority habitat. And then I added, although not under the jurisdiction of the commission, the applicants are responsible for full compliance with any requirements of the Natural Heritage Program, just as an observation, not because we are responsible for that program. And then I added, the applicants are responsible for complying with all local, state, and federal regulations regarding the use of the proposed structure. Any changes to the proposed structure or amendments to the license will require a new application to the commission. Proposed work will occur in the following protected resource areas. And I have land under water bodies, bank, and the aura. This determination is hereby issued under both the act and the bylaw. And then this is all boilerplate about site visits, providing conditions to anyone working on the project. Applicants should comply with any requirements or conditions issued by the NHESP is what I was going to say here. But I guess I also set it up above, so maybe that's not necessary. Yes, no? I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, that's fine.
Dock shall be installed in a manner which requires no modification, regrading, or recontouring of the shoreline, such as installation of a concrete pad. Any damage done to the aura or the bank as a result of installing or removing the dock shall be repaired with a native wetland grass seed and erosion controls until the site is stabilized and revegetated. The seasonal dock may only be placed in the lake between April 1st and November 15th of each year.
Mhm. Right.
Must be removed by November 15th, as the town of Shutesbury is not responsible for any damage incurred due to drawdown or other environmental issues. So for somebody, I know that the Abdows wouldn't do this, but if somebody theoretically just forgot to take their dock out or didn't get to it and it got damaged by ice, that would not be because of this permit. The town would not be responsible for that. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mhm. Yep.
Okay. Planks must be spaced at least 3/4 of an inch apart to permit light penetration. And I think we wanted to add the dock platform shall be placed at least 12 inches above the water surface.
Yes.
Yep.
At the mean annual high water level. Right?
Yep.
No change in the footprint of the foot dock is permitted. And should the applicant wish to change the footprint of the dock, a new application. The applicant shall submit to the commission proof of having obtained a Chapter 91 license. And of having recorded it with the Franklin Registry of Deeds within 30 days of having received such license, and in any event, no later than 12 months from the issuance of this determination. So it gives them a year to get the Chapter 91 license and give it to us and get it recorded on the registry. Okay?
Yep.
No changes to grade, no tree removals. One thing we didn't put here is storage.
I think that was up above. There was a line up above. Go up above, go back up a little bit. Keep going. Oops, it was there. Go back down. I think it's
What?
in this. It says it in the special conditions, I think. Go. It wasn't up that far. It was.
Item 6 in the special conditions.
Down below.
Yeah.
At least, we changed that at least 10 feet from the banks. Is what we what we decided.
Yep.
Okay. All right, and then that's it. Does that look okay to everybody?
Looks
Yeah.
good to me.
Do you want me to pull up the forms to make sure I've done it all correctly? Probably do that. We don't have to. Let me pull up the. All right,
Do we need to close the meeting before we do that?
I thought we just did. Haven't we closed it? I thought we took a vote to close. it. We're
The meeting was
deliberating.
closed. Yeah, sorry, the
Yeah.
public hearing was closed.
Okay.
You guys can see this?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, I know the name isn't in there. I was having a little trouble with this form. There was a, so I'll correct that, make sure that their name is on it. And then in terms of determinations, it's basically a 5 for the bylaw because it's also jurisdictional under the bylaws. We're saying that. This is also being reviewed under the bylaw, and then it's a negative determination. Number 2 and 3. In this case, it's a 2 because they are working in the resource area, but we've determined they're not altering the resource area, so no notice of intent is required. And it's a 3 because they're also working in the buffer zone and we're requiring conditions.
Yep.
Okay. And then I will get everybody's permission to sign digitally, and I'll take Beth's name off that before I forget. All right, and let me pull up the bylaw version of this. It's taken longer than when I wish it was taking. I'm sorry for all the delays for people who are coming for other things, but we're almost done. Okay, can you see? Can you see it? 'Cause I can't
Yes.
see it. All right.
The top part.
Okay, so this is just the bylaw form, just like before. And again, here, positive determination 5, because it's jurisdictional under the act. And then down below under 6, again, because there's areas that are subject to the bylaw, but not subject to the act. And here I have it making the point that the aura is a protected resource. Off-season storage of the dock is in the aura to the bank of the lake and a bordering vegetated wetland. And then under determinations, again, I have 2 and 3. Because we're determining that it is in a resource area, but it's not requiring the filing of a notice of intent. And 3, it's in the aura and we're requiring special conditions. And that is all I wrote. So can't change, I'm not gonna edit that. Okay, any discussion? Are we all good?
I'm good.
Okay, somebody make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
The determination. And we should
Motion.
probably say that we're making these determinations. When we say the motion, we should make it clear we're making a determination under both the act and the bylaw. As
So
written.
Suppose we approve the request for determination under the act and the bylaws
For 56.
for
North-
56 North Laurel Drive.
Thank you. Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, David,
Aye.
Defont, aye. Harrington,
Aye.
on.
Hi.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Abdow and Mr. Nelson. We appreciate your patience with this, and I hope you have a great summer.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll
for your time.
email you a copy of the permits tomorrow, and then we'll mail them out. We should be mailing them to the Long Meadow address?
Yes,
Okay, very good. Thank you.
good night.
Good night. All right, on the agenda, one update, for the Locks Pond Road culvert replacement. We got an email from the project manager saying that they're rearranging their project schedule so that they can complete the work within the time frame that is currently permitted before the permit expires. So I believe it was August 1st to September 30th, and they think they can get the work completed within that time frame. So they're not going to be asking for an extension. So that will,
It's actually starting in July.
is that what the time period was? I don't have the permit in front of me. I thought it was August 1st. Is it July?
You have the timeline.
He sent us a construction schedule, which I think Carrie forwarded to you, and I haven't had a chance to look at it. When does it say? And I think that we probably still have to review that construction schedule and approve it, because it's a new construction
Yeah, I
schedule.
think it starts in July.
Okay.
And that's important because the road closure is one of the first things that happens, so.
And so he also has clarified that they are not anticipating any drawdown as part of the construction. So that simplifies things as well. So what I'd like to suggest is, because I haven't had really a chance to look at the schedule, that we table this for the next meeting. We're going to meet again in 2 weeks and then review it.
fine.
Is that okay?
Okay. Yep.
All right. Right now for site visit scheduling, we don't have anything coming up that I'm aware of, and I'll let you know if anything comes up. In terms of recent site visits that we need to review, we did the site visit at 70 Cooleyville Road, which we already talked about. And we also did the North Laurel Drive site visit last Friday. And we, on Friday, Robin and Mary and I went to 380 Locks Pond Road for a building permit application with Morris Hill Outdoor Center, and we got quite the tour. They were driving us around in a Jeep all over their property. It was impressive how
Quite beautiful.
quite
Yes.
a amazing thing. Anyway, they're doing 4 different shelters on different locations around the property. And they're adding on to one of their bunkhouses. And we didn't see anything that looked like a jurisdictional well anywhere near any of it. So with the commission's permission, I'll just sign off on those building permits as they come in.
Yes.
We all agree. And then we did take a look at the Lakeview Road culvert where there's some beaver dam material. And I shared, I think, I don't know if I shared it with everybody. I showed Mary on my phone of some photo from a neighbor who had gone out in their kayak to show us that there is some dam material inside that culvert. Did folks get to look at that?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I haven't gotten any information from the highway department about a plan to remove any of it or how they would remove it. But they would need an emergency certification.
Yeah, it needs to be removed, but they ought to send their plan of how they're gonna do it.
Right.
And what's a little complicated is that because this area is in natural heritage, priority mapped area, even if it's an emergency certification, DP has advised us that the EC request has to go to natural heritage with a request that they do an expedited review. And they do expedited reviews very quickly, like a day or two turnaround. So the town needs to comply with that.
And
And I
Tim
did
knows that, right?
I did share that.
Okay.
We might want to, just for everybody, write this up and in an email or something, just to review it all, so make sure. And what I'd like to suggest is that we set up a site visit with Tim at this location to talk about what he wants to do and
Mhm.
when he wants to do it. So that's what I would like to do
Right.
is,
Yeah,
is
that
ask
would
for a
be
site
good.
visit. Okay. We did a site visit last year, but I think it's time to do it again. And we did last year, my recollection was that the Wendell Conservation Commission wanted to be kept looped in. So we might want to note, let them know.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the Board of Health too wanted to, I don't know if she wants to come out again too.
Yeah,
She's looked at it before, but they might want to come too.
yeah, they would need to be included. Yes. And then, to move to another topic, Mary and Beth and Robin and I'm sorry. Mary and I looked at a location on Town Farm Road on Friday that we had some concerns about. Maybe Robin, were you with us at
Yeah,
that
I
point?
was. Yes.
And then Beth and Robin and I drove by again. And this is an area where the stream that was discussed earlier passes through somebody's property. And they have an empty lot that they own next to their house where there's a good deal of debris, including, some things that are mechanical kind of debris and some car batteries, or at least one car battery that I could see. And so my thought about it was that I drafted a letter I wanted to share with the commission and send it out to the landowner with maybe a request that we set up a site visit with them. And I was going to attach an informational brochure about wetlands, just to make it also educational, because I think that's part of our goal here is try to educate landowners about the resources they have on their property.
Mhm.
So may I show that?
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull it up. Give me one sec. Scott, did you have a chance to look at it? I don't know if I even sent it out, actually. Well, I don't know where the letter is. Ugh. Well, here it is.
No, I think you did.
Did send a draft out? Okay. All right. And it's good, I think, in
I
general,
looked at it, so.
we
Yeah.
wanna, we wanna just make this kind of an invitation to a conversation, basically. Okay. So. The Shutesbury Conservation Commission drove by your property, noticed some materials outside. And then here you're maybe unaware that some or all of your properties within buffer zones and wetland resource areas. And we would like to have a site visit. And attaching a brochure. Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, I thought it looked good.
Okay. It's Scott.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
All right, somebody
Yeah.
wanna, I'll have Carrie mail it out. If I could get a motion to approve it.
Make the motion to approve sending a letter to it's 33 Town Farm Road about some of the materials on the property.
Second,
I second.
okay, David,
Aye.
Font. Hi, Harrington
Aye.
and Wilson.
No,
She's not here.
Oh, I'm
But
sorry.
I'll say
Con.
I.
Hold on one second. I gotta tell the people in the next room to be quiet. Hang on one second. All right, moving on. The other, just as there were a couple of highway department issues that came up recently. One was that, there had been a report about a concern about the beaver activity down by Dudley Road. And I had some emails with Tim Hunting about it. Apparently last week, maybe Monday of last week, the highway department went and removed some debris, some beaver dam debris off of the culvert and the beaver fence because it was starting to flood the culvert. And then after that, they decided to do some trapping in that area. So what I've said to Tim is that, to remove the remaining beaver dam material and to repair that beaver fence is going to require an emergency certification from us and from the Board of Health, a permit from the Board of Health and from us. And that I'd like to suggest that he consult with Mike Callahan, who he is planning on consulting with from Beaver Solutions, and that they set up a site visit and include us so that we could talk with him about what they're recommending to protect that culvert so that it doesn't flood.
Sounds good.
So there is a fence, but apparently the fence is not working properly. They might need to go to some other solution. I don't
Right.
know what. So that's where that is left. And one of the things I just mentioned to Tim is that that culvert, the property on one side of the culvert is conservation land managed by the Conservation Commission. And so, if they're going to be doing any work in that property, we would want to be informed and consult with them since it's conservation land. We also need to set up a plan. I have not received anything yet from the Highway Department of what their summer projects are, if there's anything planned for the summer that they're going to be wanting to do RDAs for or permits for. Usually they get those to us by May 1st, but typically we've gotten them by the beginning of April. So I'd like to reach out to Tim, if that sounds okay with everybody, and see when he thinks he'll have that list for us to review.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
And as I also shared with the commission and the select board, because this came up at the last meeting, there were some questions raised about whether our memorandum of understanding with the highway department was effective or not. And so I did find minutes from 2013 and 2014, which showed that the select board did approve it with a vote. I'm not going to give an opinion here whether that means it's a binding or effective MOU. I'm not a lawyer and I can't speak to that. But I just wanted people to be aware that it is my understanding when it was signed by the commission, it was with the select board's approval. And at that time, for whatever reason, a decision was made that the select board didn't need to sign it, perhaps because they had approved it with a vote at the time. One of the questions I have related to this, and this is kind of, I don't think this is something we can do tonight, but I know that there's some talk that we've heard that perhaps the town would like to develop an NOI for routine road maintenance. And it seems like while they're doing that, it might make sense for us to have a preliminary meeting with the highway department and, kind of hear what topics they were thinking of including, and maybe we might have some that we would like to suggest so that, as they're planning, they can take those under consideration, including in the NOI. For example,
Sounds good. It would
I
be
know-
nice to have it would be nice to have the meeting when Tim can attend, so maybe
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
a daytime meeting.
A daytime meeting. For example, I know that beaver dams or on culverts, could be included in a notice of intent so that there'd be standing orders and there wouldn't even need to be an emergency certification. That there would be approved conditions and they could address those issues as they come up.
Sounds
and then
good.
Finally, I got an email from Tim with a question about how we would feel about them doing calcium chloride spraying on Montague Road for dust
Right.
management, because apparently the dust is very bad and it's a respiratory issue for people. The road is very dry right now. And
Have they done this before? I forgot to ask
I'm
that
sure
question.
I'm guessing that they do. I'm guessing, I don't know. I mean, they use spraying or they use salt in the winter for ice control, but it's a different matter when you're doing it for dust control during the growing season. I tried to do some research about how this has been addressed by other regulatory bodies. Massachusetts is a little hard because it's so decentralized. All the decisions get made by conservation commissions. In New York State, the New York State Department of Environmental Protection has a regulation around calcium chloride spraying for dust control that says that it can't be sprayed within 100 feet of any wetlands. They're jurisdictional. So that's their standard. I did find some examples of some orders of conditions for various permits and projects around Mass with other Concoms where they had conditions around it. Sometimes saying that calcium chloride could be used, but not within 100 feet of a wetland. So there is some basis for communities and conservation commissions having some concern about the environmental impact of calcium chloride during the growing season. So I don't know what the commission wants to do. One thought I'd had was of asking them not to spray in certain parts of the road. I don't know that it makes sense to go out and delineate the whole road, but if there were a couple of areas that we know are some significant wetlands and marking out which street numbers and asking them not to spray in those particular areas and giving them rain to spray elsewhere might make sense. I also think that this is part of a bigger discussion about all dirt roads, because I imagine that this is relevant on many of our dirt roads. And
Right.
What would you guys suggest?
Well, I like the idea of looking at maybe, it seems like the 100-foot buffer that you have found in other municipalities is a place to start in terms of limiting where where treatments may occur, is a great place for us to think about in terms of our dirt roads here in town and whether or not that would present a concern for the highway department or not. I'm not sure, but maybe there's a way we, as you suggest, Miriam, I like your idea of, in designating some of the more sensitive wetland habitats along some of the roads that they're looking at spraying, and applying that 100-foot buffer and seeing if that might be acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is that this is really a discussion only about dust control during the growing season, that this is not a discussion about ice management during the
Yeah.
winter.
Totally
Is
agree.
a different matter. And I don't think that's what we're talking about. I want to be clear about that.
Yep. Agree.
I mean,
I
I
mean-
think it's okay to say within the 100 feet, but I'd still like to see him submit a plan of what he's gonna do. Just so we have something on documentation of
Well, what
what
he
the plan
said-
is.
What he said in his last email was that he had been planning on spraying the whole road except for down by Dudley Pond. And my thought is that the first quarter mile of Pratt Corner, of Montague Road has a whole complex of wetlands, including the Sawmill River, which is a cold water fishery. So my thought had been that we figure out which house number would give us that 100-foot buffer and ask him not to spray that area. There are smaller wetlands that crisscross the road, all across the road. So again, I think it's like, focusing on the biggest concerns, which for me are the two perennial streams systems, which are at the beginning and the end of Montague Road.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
So we could schedule a site visit. And if we're going to do that, I think we need to do that sooner rather than later, so that we can, because he needs to be able to act. So like, if we could do a site visit in the next couple days, is that reasonable? Penny, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah,
Have you talked with Mark Stinson about whether this is a routine policy or not? I'm a little concerned about you making potential policy on the fly like this. I'd like to see a little more considered research and discussion before you tell the highway department that they should or shouldn't do this.
Well, I think that we can certainly do that, and we are looking at an immediate situation where there's some urgency and a request. So I think we're trying to act on a request for a comment.
I'm pretty sure this has been done for a long time. And so I would say include it in your MOU or your bundled notice of conditions, but it does concern me that you're making policy in a casual way on the fly in a meeting.
I guess I'm wondering if I may look at that a little different. I'm not sure that we're making policy. I think what I heard is that we have a request to apply this dust treatment during the summer season, which I don't think has come before the commission before, that there may be some concerns for in terms of the wetland impacts, which would be jurisdictional to us, and that we're suggesting that having this buffer of 100 feet or so from some sensitive wetland areas may be a way to safeguard our jurisdictional issues, but still allow for the treatment to occur. I guess I'm not tracking Benny in terms of like a policy decision. It seems like we're trying to react to a request that we've received.
Let me
I think we
respond.
did- I think we-
Wait.
I think, go ahead.
I just respond. My interpretation of this is that Tim Hunting was making a request to see whether we would want an emergency certification. So this is part of our having a dialogue with the highway department about whether we would want to impose conditions through an EC process, which is what we do. So he's saying it's a public safety issue because people are breathing in dust and visibility on the road is poor, and that's legitimate, and I understand that. And so it is within our jurisdiction to ask whether or not there could be a potential impact on a resource area applying calcium chloride, which, if I've done some reading about it, and it is one of the safer methods, but it is not entirely benign. It has a herbicide effect, and it interferes with wetland wildlife and can be toxic. So, and it can accumulate. So we understand that the road needs to be salted in the winter, and that it may need to be salted in the summer as well. So we're trying to limit some of the potential impacts during the growing season. I don't see that as being outside of our jurisdiction, particularly because we're reviewing it at a request. A request was made of us to review it. So we are not going out looking for these things to make policies. We're responding to a request, and we have to make a decision. I'm sorry, Mary, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, we have done some research as to what other communities have done with this. So in response to this immediate, like Scott, I wasn't looking that this was the policy we were making. This is a response to the request for a condition that's happening right now that we need to respond to.
And I might just add, while the state of Massachusetts doesn't have a policy about it, the entire state of New York has a regulation about it. So I don't think this is completely out of the realm of reasonable approaches to take for protecting wetlands. If one of our neighboring states saw fit to create a regulation for it, and a number of conservation commissions included as a condition in orders of conditions. I collected 4 or 5 different orders of conditions from different communities where they put limits on calcium chloride for dust control. So on construction sites in particular. So it is it is something that other conservation commissions do weigh in on. All right, so how do we want to do this? Would we?
Right, we contact him and set up a meeting so we could take a look at it. And decide where the limits should be.
Okay. So probably maybe by Monday. Hopefully I'll pull you guys to see if we can do it on Monday. Maybe an afternoon site visit. That'd be okay.
Um,
Would that work for folks?
I don't know if it'll work. I think that, is that school vacation for all the kids here too next week?
Yep. So we're talking, that would be the 17th.
But let's see what Tim's availability is first, I guess.
Are you tied up, Mary? Because
Yeah,
it's-
I think as of right now, I don't know if my plans will work out. I may have my grandkids on Monday, but
And I'm not free until after like 2 o'clock on Monday.
Okay. Well, if I
So-
could get Robin, it was Robin, I'm sorry, if I could get Beth, and it was Beth
Mhm.
and me and Robin.
Okay.
Maybe. Okay,
okay, that works.
all right. All right, so moving on, who's here? So.
We go back to the first page. Was there a review of the lot 32?
Oh,
Is there-
yeah, I forgot about that. Is Mary Ann still here? Oops, she's not here. Was she here?
I think she
Yeah,
was
she-
here.
Yeah,
She
she
was
left.
told, she was told you were doing this at 7:45. So
Yes.
I'm not sure she waited this long.
Okay. Well, so to summarize, the town is doing some additional work on Lotto 32. And I learned about it from going to a select board meeting, and I reached out to Mary Ann to ask her whether we were going to be getting a request, because it was my understanding from the discussion we had back in December, on December 27th, that we had a process we had agreed upon whereby if additional testing needed to be done under this RDA, they would come back to us with a site plan and discuss where they were going to be working, and if the procedure would be different. And then I had a series of back and forth emails with Matt Hussein about this, that I have to say, frankly, were a bit troubling, because it seemed like we were not on the same page or understanding what had been agreed to. I don't want to summarize all the emails, but the gist of it was that he had been under the understanding that there was no need to come back to us for any further approval, and that there was no jurisdiction nexus that would require our review for any further testing. And that was concerning to me, particularly because that was explicitly what we did not say. We said that there needed to be some review, particularly if it was going to be testing in a new area or in a different time of year, where the methods for erosion control might be different, or groundwater might be different, ground might be softer. So I thought we had been clear about it.
I think Mary Ann was at that meeting and approved that too, didn't she?
Right.
As the lead on the project?
Yeah. So, in one of the emails, Matt said that he wasn't aware of that agreement because he hadn't attended that meeting. And that was concerning to me, because we had invited them to that meeting, and it was our understanding that we were waiving that requirement because Mary Ann was going to be representing the town as the applicant. It would be communicating with their consultants. And so, just as in tonight, we want to be clear about this. And so I feel like we need to do, I'm sorry that we ran over and that Mary Ann left. I would have liked to have that conversation with her so that we don't have any misunderstandings going forward. What I did to try to be cooperative around this was they were ready to go out last week and we weren't meeting. So I took the liberty of making an administrative approval And I am hoping that the commission will support that, my decision to do that, because I felt like it was in the interest of making sure that the testing got done in a timely way, which I understand was important. That there's a lot of deadlines that the town has to meet around these environmental investigations, but
I think that, I think, so I think, in my understanding is that they put in some new wells and are doing some new testing and, I don't know, I think maybe it's time for us to do another site visit out there just to take a look at all the work that they have done.
okay,
I don't think we've been back out there since they've done most of their work.
no,
What does anybody else think? Robin?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable to me.
what do you think, Scott?
There we go. Absolutely, if you all would like to take a site visit, I'd support doing that.
Okay, I'll ask. After several back and forths with these emails, I got a site plan, and the area, there's a circumference that is widening, and this new round of testing is penetrating into the buffer zone of the agreed upon no disturb, no contest buffer zones on the sides of the property. About 50 feet. So it's a 100-foot buffer, and they're going in about 50 feet. So I asked, then I thought, well, how are they getting there if it's all wooded? So I asked if they were taking any trees down, because the permit says no tree removals are allowed, or no vegetation may be removed. And they said they had to take some saplings down. So when I gave him some conditions, when I sent Matt Cassane an email, I basically set a limit on what kind of trees could be taken down, that saplings, but not mature trees, and no roots. And that tree removal will be kept to a minimum. So, and I did ask that they use the erosion matting, since at least when I was sent that email a week ago, the groundwater was still pretty high. It's gotten kind of dry quickly, but, and that they send us photographs confirming such, in the same process that they did with the RDA. But if they have, if these testing protocol means that they have to do another round in a larger area, they may be penetrating deeper into the buffer zone, or maybe getting closer to other resource areas. So that's why I feel like we need to have some process in place. And it could be as simple as they give us something in writing, a request with a site plan explaining exactly where they're going, and if they need to remove trees, telling us what they need to remove. And then, if we feel like we need to do a site visit, we would do a site visit. And then perhaps we could just do this by an administrative approval before our next meeting, or we could do it at the next meeting if there's time. But I don't want to hold up the town, but we're supposed to be reviewing these things. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. We need to set up the process so we're all clear on what it is and what they need to do as they have to do things there in a
And-
timely manner for them. So,
Would you be comfortable with an administrative approval if they're in a situation where something needs to be approved and we're not meeting for 2 weeks? That I would review it and maybe do a site visit with you guys, and then give them basically an email approval instead of issuing a permit.
I'm fine with that process.
Yeah.
But
Me
I would
too.
want it in writing, like a full written comprehensive description of what they want, not this sort of drip of like, and can I have a site plan? And by the way, are you cutting any trees down? And where is the buffer zone?
Yeah.
It just kind of lay it all out for us so that we can see
Right.
it. And it just feels like a very awkward process. I'm not trying to be unnecessarily argumentative, but I just need to understand what's going on if I'm going to be being asked to make these kind of decisions.
Totally.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see Leslie Lachonik, you have your hand raised. You want to comment?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it's important for this information and this work to be totally upfront, because I don't think at the public involvement meeting the other night that this was brought up at all. So there's actually things going on that this public involvement process is not being included as part of that. And I think this kind of running around the edges of the town being forthright about what's going on here.
So I think can I just make I was at the meeting and Matt did put up a picture of where the wells were and explain what he was doing in that area at that meeting. And so it may be a little confusing, but this is the same area we're talking about.
Yep. Okay, I think we can move on. We got a few more agenda items, and I know Mark is here, and I invited Mark Rivers to come, and thank you, Mark, for being patient and hanging out as long as you have. I knew that Mark had shared with us through Mary the draft of the RFP that they're developing for the drawdown. And I thought Mark had asked if I had any comments or suggestions for the town in developing it. I did have some, which I articulated, but I thought we should have a discussion with Mark since he's working for the town developing this. Hi, Mark.
Hi, I'm here.
So my suggestion had been that, and I don't know if this would work, in terms of the timing of things, but that the town is the town has to apply for a Chapter 91 license, permit for the operation of the dam. And the town needs to apply for a permit and a permit with us for the winter drawdown. And it seemed to me that those two activities made most sense combined in one NOI. Partially because I know Natural Heritage is going to want to look at the year-round impacts of the dam and how it's operated. So having an order of conditions seemed one order of conditions for the whole year-round activities seemed to make the most sense to me. I don't know in terms of the timing if the town would be ready to do it that way, or I know there's time pressures to get the drawdown permit taken care of, and so I don't know how that interfaces with the plan to also get the dam permitted. Can you clarify that, Mark?
Yeah, I was confused. When you sent your email, I thought you thought it'd be a better idea to have two NOIs, one for the drawdown and one for the Chapter 91 license. And basically, my original draft, I had it as one NOI for both.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. That is not, no. What I meant, and maybe we're getting mixed up with the words. So I thought that one NOI, let's just talk about us and the NOI and the order of conditions, and forget about all these other permits that we don't really have jurisdiction over. For us, having one NOI that kind of laid out the conditions for how the dam operates water levels throughout the year, including both the drawdown period and during the summer, whatever the standards are and the operating procedures for the summer, because I know that the water level is manipulated through the year during the growing season. So that then our order of conditions, which would be for that whole thing, 12-month cycle, would be used by the town for the 291 licenses it needs. Or I'm sure I'm getting the word license and permit confused, but the two Chapter 91 authorizations. There has to be a Chapter 91 authorization for the dam, and there has to be a Chapter 91 authorization for the drawdown. But what I was suggesting is that there be one order of conditions that we would develop, and approve, that then you would use for both of those things.
And I think correct me, Mark, what you're trying to do for the RFP is put the conditions down so that the town can they want to look at a company or to provide all of these services. And so you're trying to identify all the services so that they could put an RFP out. Did I get that right?
That's exactly right. We're trying to stay with one organization for the long term that can do routine inspections biannually and take care of the NOIs and take care of all the permitting that the dam needs, and specifically a company who knows and is familiar with what permits are really needed.
Yeah.
When they're needed.
That sounds great to me. That sounds great. I mean, I'm glad. It's wonderful to hear that's the direction. So, maybe it's just premature to be even talking about this. But I thought you were kind of wanting to pick our brains. So that's kind of why I offered the suggestions I offered.
Yeah, well, no, I was definitely looking for your input. There's no question about it. This is my first time doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking, I realized that I'm probably leaving stuff out. And I've talked to a couple of engineering companies that seem very confident, and they said, well, you may also need to do this and this and this. And so their response to us will be, this is what you're asking for, but in reality, this is really what you want. So, and that's the kind of company I hope the town has a contract with. That's really
You'll learn more as you go from the feedback you get from whoever's bidding. What do you think about the feasibility of one NOI for the whole thing?
Oh yeah, that's what my original intention was. I think we can do that. I'm hoping.
Yeah, I would think that would be just simpler for us, and then in terms of future renewing the permit, things like that, it would just be a simpler time frame if everything was on the same schedule.
I mean, there may be another NOI that's related to the dam repairs.
Okay.
But I don't want to get into that right now. I want to stay focused on the drawdown and the Chapter 91 license.
Yes. Okay.
So
Well,
I think your draft was looking good where you were putting it all together. What did you think about the draft, Miriam?
Well, there wasn't a lot in it. So it seemed, as far as I could tell, there wasn't a lot spelled out. I can pull it up. Probably, let me screen share it. I have it right here.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's not really as detailed as some people would want, but I'll put in anything anybody wants, to be honest with you. It's really just to get the process going here.
Yeah. And you know what? I could take a little bit more deeper look at this, Mark, and maybe if I have any edits or comments, I'll send them to you. Happy to do that. So again, it was like here, you've got the scope of work for the annual 2-year winter drawdown, but I would sort of frame it as year-round water management, including the annual drawdown. So, really kind of the operation, the year-round, dam gate operations that affect water level. So whatever way you want to put that, but, and
we may have that document, so that could easily be put into that.
Yeah. And then, right, you probably do have some of it. And then I would just include in here an acknowledgement that you're going to have to go through a review process with NHESP, and that, they may have their own set of conditions, and you're going to have to wait 30 days. So before we can issue an order of conditions, we'll have to wait for the NHESP review 30 days. So the timing would be, if you want this thing to be up and running for November 1st,
Yeah, the companies I've been talking to are familiar with the NHESP timeframe, and so I assume that they're going to be able to back things up so that so they can move well in plenty of time to get this done. May not be the case, but we'll see.
And then the other suggestion I had is making sure that you're incorporating in here a feasible plan going forward for reporting and monitoring. And because I think that that's something we would want, but I also want to point out, I think this would be something that Natural Heritage would require. And they have required it with some other communities. I had a conversation with someone from National Heritage who, shared that they have made those kinds of requirements for recreational lakes like this. Carrie, you have your hand raised?
This might be like a smaller detail, but when I had talked to Howard Kinder when he had came in, he made a request that when it comes to this kind of lake lowering, that instead of calling it a drawdown, it's a lowering instead. Just because I guess there is a larger difference where a drawdown is where it's several inches to like foot, maybe even feet, whereas drawdowns, like I saw written in here, like 2 inches. That's what he explained to me.
Well, I'm not sure if there are lots of towns that have NOIs that call them drawdowns. I don't know that there's any kind of standard definition of what lake lowering, a little harder.
That's just what he told me, and he wanted me to pass it on, so that's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Cool.
I mean, I think that whatever company we get would help us with all that defining and terminology if they understand all of these requirements.
So my suggestion had just been to be looking at future monitoring and reports and how could that be streamlined in a way that would be efficient and allow the commission, but also the community and state agencies to kind of understand water quality. So, and water levels, because, with climate change, we may see droughts where the water levels are going to be all over the map, or extreme storms. It's going to be hard to know what's going to happen with water levels. So my thought had been really to suggest that looking at perhaps some sort of digital monitoring system that would
That's what I was
automate.
going to say. Is there an automated system out there that could do that?
There are dozens of them. This is a very common thing now for stream monitoring, as well as reservoirs and ponds and lakes. And there's lots of companies doing it. You can get ones that are battery powered or hardwired, or they even have built-in little solar panels, depending on where their location is. Some of them are Bluetooth enabled, where you just go to the device, you hook up your device when you're within vicinity of the gauge, and you can upload the data onto an app. Some of them have a data package and an antenna, and they're hooked up to the cloud and basically upload real-time monitoring. Some of them will store the data on a card that you can then remove and then upload on a computer. So there's different ways to do it. I saw one, I emailed everybody about it, that I saw one that cost $3,000, and the data package annually was $350, which, I just pulled that one out. There might be better ones. I can't speak to that, but it seems like if you're going to spend hours and hours of labor going out and checking the gauge, having a way to do it in an automated way might save some labor.
Okay, I'll put that in there. I have reservations over it myself, just because monitoring systems aren't necessarily as reliable as people think. And right now we have a system that is, Howard goes out there and measures it, records it in his book, and adjusts the valve accordingly. And so it's pretty reliable. But I think we should put it in there and see what's out there.
Right.
I just don't want a system that, well, it's not my problem, I guess, either way, but it would be nice not to have a system. Let me rephrase this another way. I worked in the utility world, and utility worlds love monitors. And but many utilities realized that the cost of maintaining the monitors were so much more than the monitor itself, and the calibration and keeping them running and fixing them. And maybe in the water world, things are much more reliable. But that's why I think we need to have, if we're going to pick something like that, it has to be something that's has a proven track record.
Well, that would need to be researched.
Yeah, agreed. And that's why, agreed.
There's a range in terms of the quality of monitors. But stream gauges are a kind of, I mean, we all depend on stream gauges. That's kind of, these kind of electronic monitors have been used, are used all the time. So, I guess you'd have to look at what the reliability report is for any particular product. I couldn't speak to that. Okay, all right. So, let's move on.
So did you get what you needed from us, Mark?
Yeah, no, I thank you very much for your input. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we just, please, keep us in the loop.
Yep.
with-
Well, so my intention here is, I'm gonna go over this, what we have with the LWAC members on Saturday. And then I'm gonna pass it off to Becky, and she's gonna put in all the Ts and Cs and normal stuff for, and get select board approval. And then we can get it off again, and move the process along.
Okay.
And I already have a list of qualified companies.
Mark, while you're here, are you all straight now about the approval for the signage down by Randall Boat Launch?
I think so. We're okay with this. You guys are okay with the sign as long as it's on a separate pole.
Yep.
Catherine is ordering the sign or going to pick up the sign. I might want your approval or may want to get a group of people down there to say, okay, let's put the sign here, so we have visibility by the boats, but yet it's not, causing any problem. And then I'll probably just put the sign in myself, get a 4x4 and tie and put it in.
Okay, great. And I realized there's a couple things on the agenda that I wanted that came in just in the last day. So these are kind of these were going to be under chair updates, but they kind of relate to you. So if you don't mind staying a little longer.
Sure.
I got an email from FERCog about the FERCog Lake Wyola watershed plan.
Yep.
And what they've shared with me is that they would like the Conservation Commission to review the draft before it's released. The final draft is released. They're going to be sending out the draft next week. And they want comments from us. And there was, in theory, a discussion about holding a public meeting sometime in May. I'd have to check the dates of what we talked about. Maybe the first meeting in May, if the timeframes would work, where FERCog would come to a Concom meeting and we would review the watershed plan and also allow public comment. So wanted to see how the commission felt about that. And Mark, does that work for you and LWAC?
Well, I had an email from Tamsin at FERCog beginning of this week, and she said that they were looking for public comment in mid-May.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So that was around the time when I think we talked about setting up a meeting. So our first meeting in May is on May 11th. So I was going to propose that we have that meeting in May 11th. And I would probably put the draft plan up on our website for the public in the meantime. That sound all right?
Good with me.
Okay, great. And then the other issue was that I got I had emailed you, and then I saw you had it on the agenda about LWAC. Is there any plan to do egg addling this spring?
No, we're not. Usually I apply for that permit, and we've gotten it for many years, but the last 3 years we haven't found any nests in the area on the lake that the volunteers look for it. And so we haven't added any eggs in the past 3 years. And so the thought is there's no point, in my thought is there's no point in applying for a permit if it's not going to do any good.
Okay.
And so my thought is to skip a year and then make the call next year whether we do something or not.
Okay, thank you. And just to remind you, obviously, we do not issue these permits, but we have an interest in it. So we would just as a courtesy like to be informed when these kind of permits are issued. And if, of course, they're going to involve any work done on Southbrook Conservation Area, we would want to give consent before that work happened.
I was actually looking for a volunteer to go up into that area to locate nests. Because the volunteers that have been looking for nests have only looked on the lake itself and then 2 islands on the lake. So if, I mean, there's a general belief among residents on the east side of the lake that they have seen the geese walking down, literally walking down from Ames Pond. And so the belief is that most of them most of the nests are located up there, which is private property.
Well, I would just say if you do find any, if you could report back to us what you find, that would be great.
And if you guys are in that area and you see something, let us know also.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's move on. We have to approve the minutes for March 9th. Has everybody had a chance to look at them?
Look good to me.
Okay, somebody want to make a
Me-
motion?
Me too.
Motion to approve the March 9th minutes.
A second.
My second.
Okay, David,
Aye.
aye, Harrington.
Aye.
Aye.
I had on an agenda item, the conservation restriction for West Quabbin Woodlands, and I haven't received any updates. As far as I know, it's in the hands of the state and or the select board. So we haven't gotten any more information about where it stands.
Okay.
So finally, I think we have just one more real item, which was I wanted to just give an update about our efforts to revise our bylaw regulations. And, there's been some discussion, some confusion about it. The guidance that we've received from Beth Goodman is that the bylaw is still valid. There's been recommendations to update the regulations. We've received that recommendation both from Donna McNichol and the town's independent counsel recommended that the regulations be updated, as well as Beth Goodman. So I think we will proceed, and I'm going to recommend that we proceed as planned with regulation update because it is valid and we're still charged with enforcing it, and updating the regulations will provide clarity and consistency and standards for how we use the bylaw, which I think will benefit everybody. And so that's my recommendation. I know that there's been some discussion from the select board that the town should look at also developing and overhauling a new bylaw. And I think that that's a bigger discussion. I think that we're going to have to sit down with the select board to talk about that and what a time frame for that would look like. My understanding from talking to other people who've worked on bylaws, actual bylaws, not the regulations, but the bylaws, is that it really takes a few months to go through the drafting process and getting all the public comment and comment from town boards, so that there's community support for enacting a new bylaw. That process is necessary for something as important as a bylaw. So where we're at right now is, I'm working on the draft, and we'll set up a time schedule for presenting the regulations back, the draft regulations back to the commission. I'm working with Janice about this, and when we get them in better shape, they're still very rough. Then we'll have another meeting to review them with the commission. And at that stage, I think would be the time when we would post them on our website and open the public comment period for them. A couple of pieces that I was looking for commission approval tonight for is we have gotten approval to use town council. They've given us 5 hours of her time approved to review the bylaw. I have not had a chance to speak with Donna McNichol about it, and I really am not in a position to know whether that is a reasonable number of hours or not. So I guess that's something we're going to have to figure out. Did you have a comment, Scott? I don't want to take comments, Rita, yet until I sort of finish what I was asking the commission for. You can hold off, please. Scott, did you have a question?
Yeah, it was just maybe clarification. It seems like what you're raising here, Miriam, would be an interest in continuing to move forward with regulations based on the existing bylaw, with recognition that we would want to work on maybe modifications to a new bylaw to be introduced down the road, and using town council maybe to help us further that endeavor. Is that?
No,
Justin?
no, that wasn't what I was talking about. So the issue about developing a new bylaw, I'm putting that to the side right now. I'm not, because I think we need to have Beth here, and we need to have a bigger discussion about how we want to approach developing it. Right. So, and who needs to be part of that discussion. And I don't feel prepared to do that tonight. I'm talking about the regulatory.
I understand that.
Sorry about that. Nobody asked you. I'm sorry. My phone's talking to me. So I'm talking about the regulations, Scott, and the process that we had discussed for the regulations is that we would get them reviewed by town council or by a council. And there was some confusion because originally I got an email from Becky saying that it was approved that we would have access to town council. And then I got an email from Becky that made it sound like the select board was not supporting that, which I interpreted, perhaps that was my mistake, that we did not have town council approval. And then I got it clarified this week with Becky that no, that those 5 hours are still approved. So I'm glad that got approved. So
you're talking about moving forward with the regulations under the existing bylaw. That's what you're talking about, potentially using town council for to help us in that review, and setting aside the issue about whether or not a new bylaw whether or not we would want to work on revisions to a new bylaw.
Yeah, I want to table that discussion for another meeting. And that would require town council participation. So that's not the 5 hours I'm talking about.
Gotcha.
Just talking about the regulations right now that, you
Okay.
know, we're drafting them, but we would want to make sure that it was passed over by town council to make sure that any, you know, if there are any of the legalese in it was appropriate, that, you know, before we would approve it, we would need to have that kind of review. So that's what I'm saying, is that we've got the 5 hours, and I guess we'll just see how that works, if 5 hours is enough. I'm hoping it is. I just have no way of judging. I suggested the 5 hours because I didn't know how to guesstimate it. But I guess let's take it one step at a time and not get ahead of our skis with it. But what I wanted to, so I just want the commission to acknowledge that we're moving forward with this, and that we all agree that I want to make sure we all agree that we should move forward. My feeling about it is, before a new bylaw is passed, we still have to issue permits. And it could be months, it could be a year, it could be longer before a new bylaw would be passed. And in the meantime, we need these regulations. And if for some miraculous reason a bylaw gets passed very, very quickly, it's not wasted effort. We would just tweak the regulations to apply to a new bylaw. So, you know, I think we can do both. You know, it's like chewing gum and walking at the same time. Don't see it as an either or situation.
So I agree. I think we should work on the regulations right now, because that definitely needs updating, and recognize that the bylaw is going to need to be updated, but that's going to take due diligence so that it's prepared, because that would have to go to a town meeting, which there's just not enough time this year to appropriately look at that and get public opinion and everything before this year's town meeting.
Robin
That's-
and Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, Mary said it perfectly, so I'm lowering my hand.
Okay, so with that in mind, because I think that there's a lot of questions floating around out there, and I want to be very transparent with the public about the process. I drafted a FAQ handout that I wanted the commission to approve if they feel okay about it, or revise it with me so that we could post it on the website with a time frame. Or at least updates as we go. Maybe we won't have a time frame, but updates on the process so people know where we are. And I think that would be reassuring to the public.
Yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to look at the draft?
Let me pull it up.
I didn't actually see that, did you?
All right, let me pull it up. I did pull it out. And it might need updating, so I'm going to, I haven't looked at it for a little while myself, so give me a sec, it's opening. Where is it?
Do we want to hear Rita's comment before we look at that?
I'm sure, Rita, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a question for the commission about whether or not you had reviewed the opinion from Greg McGregor about the bylaw.
It was forwarded.
Has that been discussed with the commissioners?
We haven't had a meeting since then, so this is our first meeting.
Right, but it's not being discussed tonight. As part of the discussion about whether or not you do regulations before you update a really outdated bylaw.
Well, maybe,
So we have two documents. We have the letter from Beth Goodman that was a response, and we have McGregor's opinion. And I'm open to discussion. So commissioners, if you'd like to learn about it, these things were forwarded to the commission, so everybody's read.
I did have a chance to read them. It looked like what Gregor McGregor was recommending were updating our regulations. And so I think that's something that we're talking about here in the interim. So making regulatory updates based on the existing bylaw, and also recognizing that it maybe as a separate issue that we're tabling, that there may be a need to update the existing bylaw, but that would take more time.
Can I respond to that, Miriam?
Well, I'd like to hear from the rest of the commission.
Okay, sure.
Rita.
I mean, that was my interpretation too, that he was pointing out the areas that would need to be clarified, some of which can be done in the regulations. And some, like I said, a bylaw takes a lot more time than updating the regulations to provide some of the clarity that he recommended, and then work on the bylaws.
Yeah, I agree.
I spoke with a number of consultants and conservation agents, and I've had 3 conversations with other environmental attorneys, including one who's also a chair of a conservation commission and used to be on the board of MACC. And you know what I learned is that many towns have old, outdated bylaws, and the language has evolved in these bylaws over the years as MACC has developed its evolving model bylaw. Many towns modeled their bylaws off of whatever MACC is recommending, and that's changed over the years. And there have been evolving state laws and evolving case law. But one of the aspects of our bylaw is that there's a severability clause, which says that if any one particular clause of the bylaw becomes invalidated by court decisions or by some superseding statute, the rest stands. And until a court has determined that the bylaw is invalid, it's still on the books as a bylaw. It was approved by the Attorney General and it was voted in by the town of Shutesbury. So I personally, as a commissioner, don't feel like I have the authority to put that aside and not use it in making permitting decisions. And I think that we would do so under great peril because while there might be potentially applicants that might like to see us put aside the bylaw and kind of by fiat decide it's null and void, there might be abutters who would be aggrieved that we were being derelict and ignoring a statute that we were tasked with enforcing. So, I think that we need to do the best we can with the bylaw the way it is. And if it's possible to educate the town and raise awareness about the importance of wetlands and the role of wetlands in protecting our water and climate change, then I feel like we might have a really good chance of strengthening this bylaw and getting a new one passed. And that would be fantastic. And I would, if we could get the community to rally around a bylaw that was as protective of our resource areas or even maybe more protective, I would be very enthusiastic about that. In the meantime, we cannot pass a bylaw quickly, and we still are in this position where we have this existing bylaw on the books. And so I think updating the regulations is the prudent thing to do, with the understanding that there might be some provisions in our bylaw that we might want to be very careful about and kind of, steer clear of because they've been invalidated by state law or court decisions. And that's where we're going to need good legal counsel to make sure that we navigate those waters. And we have been navigating those waters because we know there's certain aspects of our bylaw that we can't rely on. Or that we need to interpret carefully, and we have been. So that's kind of my sense about it. And I haven't heard anybody say it's invalid. So until a qualified legal scholar or a court of law invalidates it, and I would say probably it needs to be a court of law or the Attorney General's office, I don't know that I have the authority to ignore it. Yeah, go ahead, Rita.
I don't think anybody's asking you to ignore the bylaw. And in fact, the existing bylaw would be in place until such time as there was a new amended bylaw. I just question what the rush is in doing the regulations when we have an opinion from, one of the most renowned environmental attorneys in the state. And I'm just going to read you something that that he wrote to me in answer to a question about this. Any regulations of any city or town and your town are vulnerable to attack, AKA the town could lose a lawsuit if they are not in accord with and authorized by the plain wording or by reasonable interpretation of the bylaw with which they must be consistent and implement. This is a truism. It is black letter law. It cannot be gainsaid. So, I guess I don't understand what the rush is when we know we have an outdated bylaw. What is the big rush about doing these regulations without having taken the foundation, which is the bylaw, and corrected that first?
Well, Rita, can I answer your question?
Sure.
So all bylaws by their nature are very limited and fairly terse, and they require definitions and performance standards and procedures to flesh them out. And Gregor McGregor has said at many, many trainings that this is the essential task of conservation commissions to develop bylaws, regulations in order to use their bylaws, that without the regulations, the bylaws will not stand up in court. So we've taken that to heart, and we've taken his guidance to heart, which I've heard in several trainings that I've attended, and I've read several of his blogs and his articles for MACC. And he said the same thing, that the regulations have to flesh out definitions, flesh out performance standards, and flesh out application procedures in order to make the bylaw applicable and fair and consistent. So this is where we are. We're not rushing into anything. We've been working on this for over 2 years. This process began before I even joined the commission, because we had a meeting back in January of 2021 where we were talking about the need to work on our regulations. And then when the ANRAD hearings for the solar projects happened last spring, there was a lot of concerns about our regulations being insufficient. And we promised the public, and we were advised by town council to develop new regulations as quickly as possible. That was what we were told by town council in a public hearing. And the public was relying on that. So we hired consultants to make sure that we would have the best expertise and have the best scientific basis for any performance standards. And we've developed a process for these regulations, and we've spent a long year working on a draft of them. So I don't think that's rushing at all. And we're kind of at a stage where we're getting close to being ready to release these regulations for public comment and to be reviewed by our consultants. So we want to finish the process that we began and that we've committed town funds to, because as you may recall, the Finance Committee authorized $5,000 for this regulatory overhaul, and we have consultants that we've contracted with. So I don't see any reason to stop doing it as long as the bylaw is still the law. We're going to be making decisions based on it, and we need regulations to guide us. So I want to hear a couple more comments. I'm going to let Mary and the commission comment, and then Rita, I'll let you say something, but then we're going to move on because we have some other things we have to talk about tonight.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I mean, basically, I just wanted to say, what I heard McGregor say too, was that not just that there was work that the bylaws needed, but that the regulations needed to be flushed out for appropriate interpretation. And that's what we had already been working on to be able to do that. And I think that piece is needed in the short term. So in the long term, we work on appropriately revising the bylaws.
One of the things that I would suggest anybody who's watching this recording or who's here tonight might want to read is that there's an article by McGregor, and I to summarize the title, it says something like "Home Rule, Use It or Lose It." But essentially, you know, he talks about the fact that if a town's bylaws don't have supporting regulations, they could be thrown out in court, and the bylaw decisions based on the bylaw would be thrown out of court. So his guidance was that regulations have to define and support the application of the more stringent regulations embodied in the bylaw. So, Rita.
I just want to make it clear, yes, we need good regulations. That's, that has been stated. My understanding is that you hadn't started working on the regulations until very recently. I mean, it's at least the first time I saw it discussed at a Conservation Commission meeting was the last, one of the last couple of meetings. So I don't know if you've reviewed regulations or draft regulations at other meetings, but I'd love to know that. So I have no quarrel with the fact that regulations are needed. What I'm saying is we have an opinion from a preeminent attorney. You know, you can work on the regulations, you can get them all in place, and you can get a bylaw done. And you could have gotten it done probably for this town meeting if at the point when we had the original discussion about this back in early March, if work had begun then. That's all I have to say.
Well, I'm not sure that that would have been possible. I don't think, first of all, we weren't meeting until now. It wasn't possible for us to schedule an earlier meeting in March. And I don't think 2 months is enough time for a bylaw. I think that it's going to take 6 months to a year. Maybe this could be, and I would support developing a new bylaw. And I would really welcome your support, Rita. And I appreciate your saying that you agree we need regulations. And I guess what I would love to see the select board do is to embrace the model bylaw that's advocated by MACC with the additional guidance that MACC has endorsed for some provisions since that model bylaw, because that bylaw model was developed in 2016 or 2019. And in the last year, MACC has come out with a whole bunch of recommended language for how to build in climate change resilience and protection of resources to mitigate climate change effects. And that's really kind of 21st century thinking about wetlands protection. And I would love to see Shutesbury be a leader in the state in developing a really progressive, modern wetlands protection bylaw. That would be wonderful. And to have the support of the select board would be fantastic. Things that we've talked about is the importance of understanding the buffer zone, or as I was talking about it tonight, the aura, as a live dynamic resource area, which is really central to kind of what bylaws often regulate, and as well as smaller wetlands like vernal pools. And we would love to see, I think, some of these components incorporated into our bylaw. I think we also would love to see a process built into our bylaw that would streamline some application processes for small landowners to make things easier for people to get small projects permitted without as much expense and difficulty as they have to go through now. So, and part of what we're trying to accomplish with our regulations is to create as much as we can within the existing process, something like that. And again, we're going to need town council to make sure that we're staying within the letter of the plain language, but we're trying to find out some policies and procedures to make things easier for landowners. That's kind of one of the things that we've talked a lot about. Okay. So let's move on. So do you want me to pull up those frequently asked questions? I think I did find it. That where we're at here, guys. Hello? Am I not? being-
No, I think I'm getting worn out. So how long are they?
I really want to wind down. I just have two things and then I think we're going to be able to adjourn.
Okay.
Okay. But
Yep.
we need to review it, or have you read it and you're okay with it? You tell me.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Did you, like I said, did you send it out to us?
I did. I'm trying to open it. It's not opening. I can
Yeah,
screen
'cause
share it.
I mean, I'm looking at my thing again and I don't see it.
All right.
Maybe mine went someplace else, but
Let me
I
me
don't see it here.
find
So
out, trying to find it, and I'll open it. It's not here. Where would it be? Draft tour. Okay. Okay, I do have it. All right, I'm good. Let me open it up. Bylaw regulation. Okay, here we go, people. I know it's late. I'm sorry. Okay. Why is the commission revising the bylaw? And then here's an explanation of what the bylaw is. How does it differ from the State Wetlands Protection Act? What is the purpose of the regulations? So just an explanation. Who is the authority to revise the bylaw regulations? How are we going about this revision? Consulting with specialists, and then holding a public hearing. Once a draft is completed, we'll make it available to the public to allow public comments. We'll put a draft on our webpage so the public can inspect it before the public hearing. What are the benefits of these proposed revisions? And that's where I have clear guidelines, updated fee schedules to reflect the real cost borne by the commission, provisions for waivers and exemptions, stronger protections for some of the resource areas that are already in the bylaw. We cannot create protections for things that are not in the bylaw, but we can provide further definitions to strengthen the protections for things that are already in the bylaw. Stronger climate resilience provisions, such as protections for tree removals in resource areas, things like that. Any comments?
Yeah, my only comments, I'd really like to sit down and read it, really read it through before.
Yeah,
I say,
sure I
this includes everything we want to.
I'm pretty sure I sent it out. I guess my fear is that if I, we can wait 2 weeks. I just feel like, it would be helpful for the public to get some of this information out. Do you want me to just read it out loud? Or some section of it, Mary?
Yeah, that doesn't really give me a chance to go by piece and make sure everything we've talked about is included in it. It's more comprehensive overall now. And that's just me. I mean, I don't know how right,
I didn't get into any of the discussion about the opinion from Gregor McGregor. It has nothing in there about this.
Yeah, and that's not what I'm saying, but
Okay, well, we can wait. I just had thought that it would be good to put something up on the website so the public would know what we're doing, but we can wait a couple weeks.
You could also just, if you could send it out to us again and ask for comments by the end of the week, I'm okay with doing something like this. I just would like to really see if there's anything else that we did and, go ahead and post it with the people have an opportunity to send in anything they think we need to add or that we missed. That's all.
I'll send it out to you. And we'll hold on.
Sorry, I gotta sit down and do a hard copy. I'm an old fashioned hard copy. It's not it, it doesn't absorb in my brain as well off the computer. But
so
that's me. That's nothing about it,
The other question that I wanted to pose to the commission was that we have $5,000 set aside for the regulation draft from Patrick Garner. They've done a little bit of work and they haven't invoiced it yet. But I have had a conversation with Patrick, given that the regulatory language that he was drafting really needs to fit within the whole regulations as a whole, that it would probably make more sense to ask him to review the whole regulation draft once we have it. And then he could provide testimony at the public hearing as well, which I think would be very helpful to the public to have an independent expert with his kind of seniority and his credentials being, we have people with expertise in town, but I think having somebody independent outside of town who's a known eminent expert would be very helpful. So what he said is that to do that regulation review would take about $2,500. So it would be well within the money we already have allocated. And so I wanted to review with the commission whether we should have that conversation with him.
I like that idea.
Sounds good.
What do you think,
Scott?
Okay. So do I have the commission's approval to tell him that we're going to use him in that way? We've already approved $5,000.
So I'll make a motion that we use Patrick to help us review the bylaws.
So again, not the bylaws,
regulations. I mean, Yeah.
So this is tweaking our scope with him. He was already doing regulatory work for us. And honestly, you know, what he said to me is, even if I were to draft, you know, just the definitions and performance standards for that one resource area, I need to see it all in context. I need to see how it fits in with the whole regulation document in order to make sure it makes sense. So I think we would end up wanting him to review it either way. So I think I see this as being consistent with the scope that we've already approved him for.
So do we need to second the motion? And then vote on it, so it's in the record?
I don't know if I need a vote. I just, you know, as long as I have your approval, that's
All
fine.
right. I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Thank you. All right, I think I'm ready to adjourn.
Me
So send
too.
them out to us again, so motion to adjourn.
Well, just a reminder, we're meeting twice this month.
Yes.
Correct.
2 weeks from that.
Reminder, I won't be here for the second meeting.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. All right, motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
second,
Second,
David,
Aye.
Stefan, I, Harrington,
aye.
Connie.
Hi.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.